Rat City #1 from Image Comics finds the events of Spawn number 301 rippling across time and space to create a new Spawn for a cyberpunk world of the future. And we've got the review right here. See you in 3. Welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is our review of Rat City #1 from Image Comics. We're going to talk about what it's all about, what did we like, what we didn't like, and end the review with a final score and tally. But before we get started, please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. Your attention is greatly appreciated, and make sure you stay tuned through the end for the final score. Let's talk about the credits. This issue was written by Erica Schultz. Art for the internal pages and the main cover, cover A, are drawn by Z. Carlos. Colors by J. David Ramos, FCO Plasencia, and Marcelo Iozoli, with letters also by Erica Schultz. Okay, so let's dig into it. The issue starts in the year 2107, where a Black Ops team is infiltrating a compound in Azerbaijan, and they are told to kidnap the warlord who is maybe hoarding humanitarian aid as well as selling weapons to the highest bidder. Unfortunately, one of their crew is a little bit too trigger happy and decides to lay waste to everybody despite the orders he's been given to capture instead of kill. The team eventually gets away after torching the compound, but the caravan of the Black Ops team is eventually attacked by surface-to-air missiles, and only 2 of them escape. The one primary person that manages to get away, unfortunately with the loss of his legs, is Lieutenant Peter Cairn, who is the main protagonist of this issue and the series as a whole. We catch up with Cairn months later. He's been brought into an experimental pharmaceutical company's care and attention, where they're doing experiments, if you will, with prosthetics, and to make sure that all the soldiers who have been wounded in battle, who deserve care and attention and respect for their service, regardless of what that service entails, get the best treatment possible. Karen receives new legs that are cybernetic. Well, they're not monstrosities, but they definitely give him superhuman capabilities of strength and speed. Unfortunately, his test results after adapting to the legs and running as fast as he can and showing as much power as he can don't live up to the standards of the main guy at the pharmaceutical company, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Bose, and he's shown the door. He gets to keep his legs, but he's no longer part of the program. We catch up to Peter Cairn 4 months later, where he's just doing manual labor work as a maintenance worker for street damage, and during that time, he's in a hole. He's trying to figure out where a leak has occurred in underground pipes near a particular city. And while he's down in the pit, he is caught up in an explosion that happens at the heart of the city, but expands out to encompass several city blocks. The explosion damages his legs, but with a brief power outage, and it blacks out most of the city. But Peter is able to escape the hole and make it back to his apartment and try and rest and recover, saying, wow, that was crazy, that was weird, and there was a strange glowy energy associated with that explosion. But when Peter tries to take off his legs to rest and recoup and just be done with a really horrible, no good, rotten day, he finds out that his legs won't come off and his hands are glowing, his prosthetics are glowing, and suddenly he's confronted with a glowy outline or image of Spawn. And that's where the issue ends. If you're interested to know where this series and this particular issue ties into the greater Spawnverse, the explosion that Peter Cairn gets caught up in is a direct result of the necroplasmic detonation that happened in Spawn issue number 301. For some strange reason, there's no editor's note on that particular page when the explosion occurs. At least if there was one, it was very small and it happened, and it's hard to see. But yeah, if you want, so in other words, this does tie into the Spawnverse as part of an alternate reality, a future alternate reality, but it's sort of happening in parallel for events that happen in the main Spawn title. So what do we think about Rat City #1? What do we like about it? Did we like it? The answer is, yeah, kind of like this. If you're trying to expand the Spawnverse with Elseworlds or alternate reality types or versions of Spawn, and you want to really dip your toe into the sort of futuristic cyberpunk version of Spawn, this is a great way to do it. I think the original way it was termed to us before we picked this issue up, it was, think of it as the Spawn version of Spider-Man 2099, and it kind of fits in that realm. Even the time periods are very similar. So Peter Karen is a compelling lead character. His backstory is interesting. The way he comes about his Spawn abilities, so even though it really ends with him sort of seeing Spawn and feeling that something's off, you don't really see him become any kind of Spawn yet. But this was a good foundational issue to kind of get you invested in the world, understand the character motivations, give you a sense of who Peter Karen is, all about who he is and what he's all about, and give you kind of a way, and especially with the loss of his legs and getting injured in the course of military service, really immediately gets you on his side about him being, maybe not a perfect guy, but at least a good guy at heart. So I think this issue does a lot of things right. What didn't we like about this issue? Little nagging things, nothing major. For example, when Peter Karen gets these very highly advanced, prototypical cybernetic prosthetic legs, he doesn't meet up to the standards of the physical performance that they're looking for. At least the main scientist doesn't get the performance that he wants, and so he says, "You're free to leave, and you can keep the legs." Well, that seems a little odd because it seems very expensive, and if the tech falls into the wrong hands, you'd think that would be a problem for somebody. So it doesn't really seem to make sense that you would give somebody these really fancy legs that are ultra powerful, and then just because he doesn't reach the peak that you wanted, you would just let him go with the legs. Why not give him a downgrade? Why not deactivate them to do nothing but the basics? It seems a little odd. Plus the aforementioned fact that the necroplasmic detonation that comes from Spawn 301 didn't really, you had to go look that up. So we didn't really find a strong editor's note or an explanation about how the two events tie together. And so that should have been an opportunity for the editors to tie this issue into Spawn 301 from a back issue perspective and bring those two closer together, and opportunity for sales and whatnot. So that seems very strange that you wouldn't clarify where that explosion came from or why it's important or how it ties into this. There should have been a little bit more synergy, a little bit more cohesion there, and that was a little lacking. Again, these are mild issues, not big issues overall. We still are generally positive on this, on Rat City #1. Let's switch gears and talk about the art from Z Carlos. Looks good. Actually, looks pretty darn good. For Cyberpunk, can go really right or can go really wrong, depending on who's doing it and their idea for aesthetics and just the general feel and vibe. Z Carlos really pulls it off. Everybody's got some kind of metallic something, some kind of doodad on their elbow or their eye or on their temple or on their head or something. It really feels like technology is integrated into the daily lives of pretty much just everybody. And so that makes a lot of sense. You don't have people walking around as full cyborgs, but you really get the sense that this is a world of, say, about 80 years in the future or 85 years in the future for us that has truly embraced technology. And so to have a hero that is Spawn, which is necroplasmic based, but also integrated with cybernetics, makes sense. And so from an aesthetics point of view, Z Carlos really nails it, and it looks good overall. Some of the applications of lines and colors feel a little smudged, like somehow the things don't quite fit within the lines in a few spots, but those are minor problems overall. Generally speaking, this looks good visually. So final thoughts, what do we think about Rat City #1? This was a great starting issue for a new version of Spawn that exists in an alternate time and place. The writing was good, the art is good, the whole concept of having a different version of Spawn assuming the same mantle but existing separate and given an opportunity to stand on his own, no pun intended, given the prosthetic legs. This was a great way to do it. So I think for what Image wanted to accomplish, they nailed it, and this was a good issue overall. Therefore, we're going to give Rat City #1 from Image Comics a 9 out of 10. Good art, good storytelling, good character work, good world building. It all comes together, and it ties to the main Spawn universe, but is separate enough that it stands on its own. So there you go. Are you keeping up with the totality of the Spawnverse, or are you just picking and choosing individual titles? Which is your favorite title in the Spawnverse? We want to know. Leave a comment down below. Otherwise, stay tuned through the outro for the next review.